Super Mario World. God, what a blast of the past. This game came out a long time ago, back in the 90s, which is weird to say that it was a long time ago, but it was. I mean, not in terms of like ancient, we didn't have video games back in the year 1000, but, well, maybe we did. We just lost them. But no, Super Mario World came out for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This was the first video game I was ever exposed to. Full stop. I remember I was probably 4 years old, and we had a friend of the family come over and bring over his Super Nintendo. And I watched on the screen as this controller was hooked up to the TV, and the inputs that were being made with your thumbs and fingers were translating to this little red shirt, blue overalled, mustached hero who ran around, jumped on turtles, and stomped on brown mushrooms. I was completely captivated. The colors were so explosive. It was fast paced. It had this chip tone, kind of hyper exciting, joyful music. I never seen anything like that on TV before. All I was used to was Disney movies and the occasional strange documentary in the news. So to see this game, which seemed so interesting, totally captured my attention. Now, I didn't get to play it much because most of the adults were playing it and the teenagers, and they were having a fun time playing it. So, and I was 4. I didn't know how to play the game. And so I had to basically just watch them play, but I was still okay with that because I was still having fun watching them play. I remember Super Mario World was my favorite game at the time. It stayed my favorite game for a very long time. And I got my first Super Nintendo when I was around 8 years old. It was a hand-me-down. I don't remember who gave it to me and how I got it, but I was given it and I got to plug it into our TV at the time. And the only game it came with was Super Mario World, which I was over the moon about. Playing this game was so much fun. But if you've never played it before, most people, when they look at it, don't realize how difficult it was. Super Mario World was not easy. It was very unforgiving, and as you played, the game got harder and harder. There was no tutorial, there was no YouTube back then. The whole game was about trying to overcome the challenge of the level. And you only had so many lives, and if you failed, it was game over. It was a pretty difficult challenge, especially for an 8-year-old kid who didn't know much about video games, and his only introduction to the world was from watching other people play. I didn't know that this game had so many different secrets. Like, there was different exits to different levels, which took you to different places, which unlocked different things. I remember my cousin came over one time and he was showing me the game. Well, I was playing it, and I asked him if he wanted to play, and he hopped on, and he just started passing these levels like a breeze. And I was just blown away. I'm like, I've been trying to beat this level for like a month, and he just did it so quickly. And then he found the feather and the cape and Yoshi and all the little secrets, and he was showing me, and then the star lanes. I didn't even know you could go this far. I didn't even know there was this many levels to the game. And I just remember it being so cool watching this whole story arc of this little plumber who would explore pipes and go through this world on his journey. even though there was never any written story content, and Mario is not well known for his story, it was so exciting. And there was something so special about putting the cartridge into the Super Nintendo console. A lot of us would blow on the cartridge to get the dust off. Apparently that also caused corrosion on the cartridges, so that wasn't good for the cartridge. But there was something magical about these old school TVs, hooking the system up, putting the cartridge in, hearing the system boot up and the game start. There was just some excitement to it that was just unlike anything else. It was new. It was technology that was sort of bleeding edge at the time. Like, up until this point, movies were really the biggest thing. You would go, there'd be blockbusters, there'd be, big movies. People would go to the movies to go see like these shows, but nothing quite like video games had really been explored. And it was a small subculture of people that played them. Consoles themselves hadn't been really well developed yet. We didn't have 3D video games yet when the Super Nintendo came out. It was all two-dimensional still, except some video games on the Super Nintendo did have a 3D effect, which would be, I believe, Super Mario Kart, which I believe that was the name of the game, which had a very 3D effect to it. But for the most part, we didn't really have 3D. So that wasn't really a thing yet, not until the Nintendo 64 came around. The SNES just was still this super exciting console that I got to experience, and I know many other people got to experience. And it's kind of cool looking back on that now and how far we've come. And it's so easy to criticize video games today because, we see a lot of the same repetitive things. It's so rare for something new to break into the market and be a game changer and shake up the whole platform. But Super Mario was one of those games. I mean, there was Super Mario Bros. That came on the NES before, and I have played it, but it didn't quite hit the way Super Mario World did. It is, to this day, still considered one of the greatest games of all time, and for good reason. Partially from innovation, but partially because it was just so well polished and so well made. Nintendo did a really phenomenal job. So this is also a gratitude and a thank you to Nintendo for creating this wonderful experience that many of us got to enjoy. And I hope that if you haven't played this game, you give it a shot, because it's pretty fun and it's pretty hard, but it's also pretty rewarding. So I'll see you in the next one.